Now we'll create the pipe at the top of the document. Hitting V on the keyboard, I'll use my Move tool to drag a guide down to 1 inch, and then a second one at 2 inches. Now our objective is to make a piece of pipe that looks like it's cylindrical. I'll hit M on the keyboard, and I'll click and drag between the guides pretty much the whole length of the document. Going to my swatches, I'll choose 50% gray and fill it and deselect. And in my layer window with the pipe layer named and selected, I'll put the inner glow on. I want the inner glow to be black, and I'm going to leave the opacity at 100% for the time being, and I'll leave the choke at 0 for the moment, and I'll start to drag the size in, and I'll make the size about 100. And now I'll start to back off with the opacity. I'll drop the opacity to about 55%. And we have the basic pipe that we want, but there's one more reflection we need to make it seem rounder than it is. I'm going to use my burn tool. I'll hit O on the keyboard, and when I do, there are 3 options. There's the dodge tool, the burn tool, and the sponge. I'm going to use the dodge tool. The dodge tool may be the first one you see. It looks like a lollipop. I'm going to right click and change the hardness to 30%. I'll make the size of the brush 70. And I'll hold down my shift key with the dodge tool outside the shape and drag through the center. And you can see now it's given us that added extra value. Now if I wanted to, I could make the brush even smaller, and I could go through the middle again if I chose. Hitting Command T and holding the Shift key, I'll make that pipe a little thinner. Now I don't want the edges where it gets darker because of the way the inner glow affected it. I'm going to rasterize the layer by right-clicking and choosing Rasterize Layer. Then with my rectangle marquee, I'll just get rid of those inconsistencies. If we look at the pipe that's in our document, we have an elbow. To make that, we're going to use our marquee tool, and I'll select about 1/3 of that pipe, and I'll hit Command J or Edit Copy, Edit Paste. And we've got another section of that pipe on a separate layer. I'll hit Command T, right click inside and choose Rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. We're going to use the Puppet Warp tool to bend this. Edit, Puppet Warp. I'll start to place a couple of points here just to get started. I can always add more afterwards if I need to. And I'll start to bend it up to get that elbow shape. Now I'm not worried about these edges because we can always cut them off straight. I'm more concerned about getting the right angle. I can always add more if I need to refine it. Once I have what I want, I'll hit Return, and now I'll cut off what I don't want. Using the marquee, I'll cut it straight here, and I'll cut off about the same amount so that from here to here is the same as from here to here. So something like that is fine. Hitting V on the keyboard, I'll move it into position. Now if we look at the tutorial file, there are little collars that actually appear where the pipe meets the elbow, right here and here. On that same layer with the elbow, I'll hit M for marquee. I'll put a selection just inside the edge, and I'll hit Command J. And then I'll double click or go down to my FX and I'll put Inner Glow. I'll back off the size of the Inner Glow considerably just to define the edge a bit. And I'll click OK. Now I'll hit Command T, and if I hold the Shift and the Option, I can scale that in both directions so that it's more vertical but maintains the same thickness. I need another one of those here. With the marquee, I'll select it. Hitting V on the keyboard to go to the Move tool, I'll Option drag, and then I'll rotate that 90 degrees clockwise, and I'll put it into position. Now all we need to do is create the piece of the pipe that would go up into the ceiling. I'll go down to the first pipe we made, the longer one, and again I'll get my marquee, select the piece I think I need, a little bit larger is even better, and I'll hit Command J to place it on its own layer, and with the Move tool, hitting V, I'll drag it over to where I want it to be, and I'll rotate it 90 degrees. And I'll place it in the position I want it. Now all I need to do is merge these together. So I'll select the collars that are around the pipes, selecting the elbow and the long pipe as well as the top. I'll shift select all of them, and in the layer window on the white lines I'll click and choose Merge Layers, and I'll name it Pipe. And I'll start to place that into position. Now I might want to scale this a little bit more. Maybe it's a little too big. It gets pretty subjective at this point, but I'll hit Command T, and then I'll drag it so everything gets thinner. And if I needed more pipe now, all I would do is use my marquee, drag along the straight piece of pipe, going to my Move tool, which is V, holding down the Option and dragging with the Shift, I can extend it off the right-hand side of the document. Put a drop shadow on the pipe so it gives it some depth of field and distance from the walls behind. Going down to FX, choosing Drop Shadow. I'll redirect the shadow so it's falling down underneath the pipe. I'll do that by putting my dial at about 12 o'clock. Now maybe I'll change my distance. And I want this to be a bit of an angle, not straight behind. So I'll go back to the angle and I'll make it about 120. And I'll click OK and save.